Well, hello, 8th graders of the world. I hope you're doing great. Here's where we're going to be at today in our notes. The very first piece, you would have gotten this yesterday if you were here. If not, your substitute should have handed out those extra sheets today. But today we're going to be dealing with parallel lines and transversals. These weird things we call transversals. We've got to use a little bit of 7th grade geometry, special angle pairs and relationships to get started. So some of this you might remember hearing or seeing last year, or maybe because that was a long time ago, you're like, I don't remember any of this. But we need a quick recap on some special angles that we have. And so I've listed a whole bunch of special names here, and we're going to relate all of these angles and whatnot. I'm going to talk about these, but here's all of these new angles that we need to familiarize ourselves with once again. For starters, let's go over interior angles. So interior angles, these are going to be angles that are on the inside of the two lines. When I say two lines, guys, I'm talking about this line here and this line here. And sometimes these two lines I'm drawing in red are parallel to each other, and sometimes they're not. If they were parallel, guys, we would see, well, they would tell us, or they would put these cool little arrows on them. And that is the symbol for us that says, hey, these lines are parallel. So I want the lines that are inside of those two lines. So that would be 3 and 4 and 5 and angle 6. Okay, so those are the interior angles. Exterior angles would be, hey, what are the angles that are outside or on the outside of those red lines? So those would be 1 and 2, 7 and 8. Okay, so pretty straightforward there as far as interior and exterior goes. And keep this, guys. This is going to be like your reference page. So when I say, hey, can you name me corresponding angles, I want you to refer back to this page here. Alternates. I've got two kinds. Well, alternates, we have two different kinds of alternate angles. I can have alternate interior, and if you look down here, right, here's the two alternates we could have. I can have alternate interior and alternate exterior. So alternate just means you're on either side of the transversal, right? You can't be on the same side. Those, if you cheat and look below, are called consecutive angles. But alternate angles. So on the opposite or the other side of the transversal, guys, I'm going to draw in blue, like a magic that will appear here in right now. There you go. So transversal is the line in blue. Basically, it cuts my two red lines, not in half, but it just slices them right where it goes through. So there's my transversal. Alternate interiors are on either side of that blue line. And there's a couple of them. All right, so I'm going to scroll up here a little bit. So my first set of alternate interior angles, I'm going to choose angle 3, right? And I'll be vague. There's angle 3. And so what's on the other side of the blue line? Well, that would be angles 4 and 6 would be my two choices. But angle 4 shares the same vertex, which I don't want. That's just adjacent to angle 3. So I would like angles 3 and angle 6, if I can write correctly. There we go. Now that's just one pair of my alternate interior angles. I still have two more angles, right? That would be angle 4 and angle 5. Those are alternate interiors as well. Right, so 4 and 5, 3 and 6. Just like having alternate interiors, we can have alternate exteriors. So let's just look at angle 1. My exterior angles are 1 and 2 and 7 and 8. I want alternate exterior angles, so meaning they're going to be on opposite sides of the transversal, and they're not going to share a vertex, so angle 1 and angle 2 are not alternate exteriors. However, angle 1 and angle 8 would be. So angle 1 and angle 8. And then we also have the other two angles, which are angle 2 and angle 7. I'm making very sloppy angle signs. Please forgive me. All right, so those are alternate interior, alternate exterior. Sometimes they can look a little bit different if the lines aren't parallel. Those red lines aren't parallel to each other, but it's still, you're looking for the same thing. Hey, I want the interior angles or I want exteriors, and I want them to be on the opposite side of the transversal. Okay. We also have these things we call consecutive interior angles. I can't do all of this. We're going to have to shrink this down. There we go. We just had a dilation. Woo! Okay. That's just bad math there, Mr. Fricky. All right, let's talk about consecutive angles. These are on the same side of the transversal. So, same side. So, consecutive, all right, interior, right? It says they lie on the same side of the transversal inside the two lines, right? The two lines being the red two lines, and they're on the same side. So, I've got two pairs of consecutive or same side interior angles. Those would be, let's see, angle 3 and angle 5. Right, those are on the same side of the transversal. As well, I have angle 4 and angle 6. Awesome. My favorite of all, let's go back up right here, corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are in the same position on each of the two lines. So in other words, if you think about grouping, and here, I'll just draw another set of them over here. So there's our two lines. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, so here's my 8 angles again. And if I want to think about corresponding angles, I want to use these first 4 angles right here and figure out which angles are in the same position in the second set. So in other words, here's the red circle and the blue circle, right? Each of those circles contains 4 angles. I need to pick one angle from the red circle that is in the same spot as that angle on the blue circle. Hopefully that makes sense to you, because it doesn't to me. I'm just kidding, of course. Corresponding angles. So if I pick angle 2, right? So I will say angle 2, and which angle in the blue circle is in the same spot as angle 2, right? That upper right-hand corner. Well, that would be angle 6. Okay. What if I pick angle 1? Well, angle 1 is in the upper left corner, so is angle 5. All right, what if I pick angle 8? There's really no order to the angles I'm picking. Angle 8's in the bottom right corner. Well, that also is angle 4. And our last angle 7, again, bottom left, so is angle 3. Voila, there we go. So corresponding angles, right? They're in the same spot, just located with a different vertex. Sorry. All right, and our last kind of angles here, vertical angles. They are opposite each other and have the same vertex. Okay, so again, I'll draw another set of lines down here, hopefully a little bit better. Let's go here and here. Here's my line. Here's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay. we're going to have lots of vertical angles. Again, they're opposite each other, and they have the same vertex. So pick any number on here, 1 through 8. Hopefully you're thinking of the same number that I am, 6. Good job. So what angle is opposite 6 but shares the same vertex? Well, the vertex that 6 has, I'm going to circle here in red. So my choices have to be 5, 7, or 8. But which one is opposite? Only one of them. 2 of them are adjacent. So I would say the opposite of 6 would be 7. All right, 5 and 8 are just adjacent to angle 6. We could also say angles 5 and 8 are opposite, or vertical angles. Let's look at our first 4 angles up here, angles 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I pick angle 3, you guys pick angle 2. Yep. And, of course, 1 and 4. All right, so these are all vertical angles. Vertical angles are cool because they always have the same measure. Okay, so this is a good refresher for all of these special angle types. Some of these are new, some of these are not new. Now, here's what's really important. I've got 3 boxes down below here, and it says, if lines are parallel, these angles are equal. Okay, so in other words, like if you look all the way back up here at the first set, right, that I just put a star by here. So if we look here, so if my red lines are parallel, and again, they can tell me they're parallel, or they can make those nice little arrows on them to indicate they're parallel. So if those lines are parallel, here's all of our angles that are equal. Let me zoom in over here. So our alternate interior angles, hopefully your handwriting is neater than mine, are equal, meaning they have the same measure. Just like our alternate exterior angles would be. Okay. Corresponding angles are also equal to each other. Of course, vertical angles are equal to each other. Am I missing any angles? Nope, I think we're good. Okay, again, that's if we have parallel lines. All 4 of those, right, angles are equal, which is pretty cool because that means, like, hey, if you know angle 2, right, back up here, then you could figure out what angle 3 is. You would know what angle 6 is. You would also know what angle 7 is. Then that would also give you angle 5. So you would get, just by knowing what angle 2 is, you get almost half of these angles, which is pretty cool. Okay. All right, so there's that. Let's look at what if our lines aren't parallel, right? If lines are not parallel, these angles are still equal. Vertical. And that's it. Right? That's all. Okay. Interestingly enough. What about angles that add up to 180 degrees? Ooh, when lines are parallel. This would be, let's write these over here. So if we have parallel lines, these angles will definitely add up to 180 degrees. Well, we know adjacent, right? And we haven't really talked too much about those, right? Those have a fancy name as well. Those are also called a linear pair. Like if you look up here, angles 1 and 2 are adjacent, right? They make a linear pair. Just like angles 2 and 4 are adjacent in a linear pair, right? Meaning those 2 angles would add up to 180 degrees. That's fairly intuitive, and that's something that we did last year. But more importantly, so let's figure out this. If we have, let's look at our corresponding, no, I take that back. Ignore everything I just said to you. How about we would like our consecutive interior angles. That is what I wanted to write. So consecutive interior angles. So meaning if, again, let's look back up here, guys. If my lines are parallel, I know that angles 4 and 6, right? 4 and 6 have to equal 180 degrees, right? Just like angles 3 and 5 would add up to 180 degrees. Kind of weird because there's not really a straight line or a vertex or anything that they share, but it really is true. So, okay, so there was a recap. That was a long, lengthy page, guys. I promise these next pages will go much, much, much faster because you're going to be doing a lot of the work now. So here's what I want you guys to do. So let's hop over. Let's take a look here. It says complete the table below by identifying all angles/lines. So it wants to know parallel lines, transversals, exterior angles, supplementary angles, interior, all these. You see all these lovely angles here that we just talked about. Now there's a few that we haven't. And I'll give you a cheat sheet for those of you who might remember this from last year. Complementary and supplementary angles, right? If you write them in alphabetical order, they look like that, complementary and supplementary. And we always know that these two types of angles, one adds up to 90, one adds up to 180. Well, if you write complementary and supplementary in alphabetical order, and then you write 90 and 180 in numeric order, you have just figured out which one adds up to what. So complementary will add up to 90. Supplementary will add up to 180. I am full of awesomely good, interesting tricks for you guys today and hints. Okay, if at any time you want to pause this and try to answer some of these, have at it. Okay, I would actually encourage that. So if you want to pause the video, go through as much of this as you can, right? We're just going to name the parallel line and the transversal line, right? So find two letters of the alphabet and name it. Interior angles, again, just name them by number, right? Exterior angles, name them by number, okay? So if you want to go ahead and pause this, in the meantime, I will quickly write and talk at the same time, and then we'll get to some other stuff, okay? All right, here we go. So let's dive right into it. Parallel lines. So my parallel lines are going to be AB. There's line AB. And parallel, there's our parallel symbol. AB is parallel to CD. All right, and we could write that in the other way. We could say CD is parallel to AB. We could even write BA is parallel to DC. But I'm boring and I just read and write from left to right. My transversal is line EF. Exterior angles. So if we think about which angles are on the outside, that would be angles 1 and 2, 7 and 8. Supplementary angles. Again, these are angles that will add up to 180. There are a ton of them. Supplementary angles. You could have 1 and 2. All right, you could have 1 and 3. I could have 2 and 4. 2 and 4. It's not a very good 4. And then the last pair I could have up here would be 4 and 3. So that's just from angles 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are all supplementary. They add up to 180, or they're linear pairs. In the bottom 4 angles, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Again, 5 and 6 are supplementary. So are 5 and 7. 6 and 8 are supplementary. And let's see, 7 and 8. 7 and 8. And I think we're good. Interior angles don't have nearly as many interior angles. We have 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alternate interior angles. Well, if my interiors are 3, 4, 5, and 6, I can't use any numbers other than those. So alternate exteriors. I can't even read. The writing is so small. It's been dilated by a scale factor of 1/2. Alternate exterior angles. Well, my exterior angles, guys, are 1, 2, 7, and 8. Alternates, I would say angle 1 and angle 8 are alternates, as are 2 and 7. Okay, corresponding angles. Gotta scroll up a little bit. Angles 1 and 5, 3 and 7, 2 and 6, and 4 and 8. Vertical angles, again, lots of vertical angles as well. Angles 1 and 4 are vertical, just like 2 and 3 are vertical. 5 and 8 are vertical, so are 7 and 6. Alright, so that was awesome. Now we're going to do a little bit of angle measures, which is probably one of my favorite things to do. Then we've got, some more fun over there. Okay. So parallel lines cut by a transversal. Here we go. So my parallel lines we see would be over here. I'll just shade them in blue. Right? There's our 2 parallel lines there. Our transversal is just the black line that I've left. So angles that add up to 90 degrees are what kind of angles? Well, angles that add up to 90 degrees are, well, I wrote it down on the other page, but those are complementary angles. Sometimes you'll hear these, you'll see a right angle, right, which we know is 90 degrees, but if we have 2 angles that add up to 90 degrees, yes, they make a right angle, but they're also complementary angles. Identify one pair of vertical angles. Again, stop this at any time, fill out what you can, come back, listen to me do the rest. Identify one pair of vertical angles. We've got lots of them. 1 and 6, 2 and 5, 3 and 8, 4 and 7, right? These are all vertical. Angles 6 and 8 are what kind of angles? So angle 6 and angle 8, those would be corresponding, right? These are in the same location, right, from one set of angles to the next. Angle 6 is kind of in that bottom right. Angle 8 is also in the bottom right. Angles 3 and 4 are what kind of angles? Well, they're next to each other. So angles that are next to each other we call adjacent. So we could say they're adjacent. As I mentioned earlier, they are a linear pair. But more than likely what it probably wants us to call these are supplementary angles, because angles 3 and 4 add up to 180. That's what a linear pair is. pair being 2, linear being they make 180 degrees. What about angles 1 and 8? These appear to be on the outside of my two parallel lines, so I think these are some kind of exterior angles. Right, I think these are some kind of exterior angle. These would be alternate exterior angles because they're on alternating sides of our transversal. If angle 1 is 135 degrees, what is the measure of angle 7? Love these questions. So angle 1, 135 degrees. If it helps you, just write it in. 135 degrees. I want to know what angle 7 is. There is no direct calculation that will give you what angle 7 is, right? I need to figure out an angle that might be an alternate interior to number 7, or that might be a corresponding angle to number 7, right? Because those are all the special relationships that give me equal angle measures. So I think angles 5 and angles 7 are corresponding. And because my lines are parallel, I know 5 and 7 will have the same angle measure. I know that angles 1 and 5 are supplementary angles, or a linear pair. So that means they have to add up to 180 degrees. So we're getting close to this. So angle 1 and angle 5 have to add up to 180. So in other words, some number plus 135 equals 180. Well, solve this equation, right? It's a one-step equation. Subtract 135 from each side, and we get 45, right? Of course, that's in degrees. So now I know angle 5 is 45 degrees. And because my lines are parallel, 5 and 7 are corresponding angles. I know angle 7 has to be equal to 45 degrees. Congratulations. If angle 5 is 62 degrees, okay, we just solved angle 5. I told you it was 45, but that's okay. This is a different problem. Just go with it, guys. If angle 5 is 62, here, watch this. And now it's 62 degrees. What is the measure of angle 4? Right, angle 4 being all the way over here. Well, is there a unique relationship between angle 5 and angle 4? There most certainly is. These are alternate exterior angles, right? And alternate exterior angles are equal to each other when we have parallel lines, which of course we do. So that would mean angle 4 is equal to angle 5, which is 62 degrees. Woo! All right. 3 more questions. Now they're telling us angle 7 is 60 degrees. What's the measure of angle 8? So angle 7 is 60 degrees. Let's write that in. What's the measure of angle 8? Right? Yeah, angle 8. Well, what's the relationship between 7 and 8? 7 and 8 are supplementary. Right? 7 and 8 are supplementary angles. So that means they have to add up to 180. All right, again, one-step equation. We're adding 60 on the left-hand side, so subtract 60 from both sides. 180 minus 60, just 120. So there we go. So angle 8 equals 120 degrees. Okay, once again, now it's changing angle 8 on us, guys. It says, hey, if angle 8 is 110 degrees, what's the measure of angle 6? So if angle 8 is 110, all right, let's write that in. So angle 8 is 110. What's the measure of, I believe it said angle 6. Let's just shrink this so I can keep doing that. Yeah, angle 6. So what's the relationship between 6 and 8? Or is there one? Well, there is. They are corresponding. So corresponding, when you have parallel lines, says they're equal to each other. So this means angle 6. Angle 6 is equal to angle 8, which is equal to 110 degrees. What is the sum of supplementary angles? I've already told you that. 180 degrees. Okay. Onward we go. Last page, guys. What type of angles are angles 1 and angle 4? Again, we're going to go through this at warp speed. Those are vertical. What type of angles are angles 1 and 5? Corresponding. What type of angles are angles 1 and 8? Those are alternate exterior. List all angles congruent to angle 3. Ooh, love this question. Well, for starters, angle 2, right? That's a vertical angle with it. Pick out a corresponding angle. That would be 7. Pick out, so here we go. So we've got 2 and 3. 7. Alternate interior to 3 would be 6. Any other ones that we can say? Nope, I think we're good. If the measure of angle 1 is 70 degrees, what's the measure of angle 6? Well, again, I can't directly go from angle 1 to angle 6. Right? There is no relationship there. But if I know 2 or 3, then I definitely know 6. So again, it doesn't matter which one you choose. Let's just choose, hey, angle 1 plus angle 2 has to equal 180 degrees. So in other words, 70 plus x equals 180. Or that means your x equals 110. So now I know angle 2 is 110. And if angle 2 is 110, then so is angle 6. So 110 degrees. If the measure of angle 2 is 140, identify all other angles with the same measure. Well, now it's just saying, hey, if this angle is 140, what other angles have the same measure? Well, I think that's kind of a question we've already answered once, but I know angle 3 would have the same measure, so angle 3, as would angle 6, as would angle 7. Kind of a repeat there, but that's okay. What's the relationship between angle 5 and angle 4? So let's find angles 5 and 4. Here's 5, here's 4. They are on opposite sides of the transversal, and they are both interior angles. Alternate interior. Are there any supplementary angles in the figure above? Of course there are. There are tons of them. 1 and 2. All right, we also have here 1 and 2. We also have 1 and 3. 2 and 4, as well as 3 and 4. That's all just in the upper 4 angles. Of course, the lower 4 angles would have 5 and 6, 5 and 7, 6 and 8, and 7 and 8. All right, well, you guys have been very attentive, so I would like to leave you with a gift. As if listening to me wasn't a gift enough, I will allow you some homework tonight. So here's what I would like you to do. You should have these 2 lovely pages in your notes. And while I wanted you guys just to do the odds, Mr. Knoll thought it would be a great idea for you to do the odds and the evens. And then we had an arm wrestling match, and he won, so we have to go with it. So your homework for tonight, guy, all of this page and all of this page. Sorry, I'll work on my arm wrestling skills so that I can beat Mr. Knoll next time. So anyway, you should have a little bit of class time left. Use it wisely, and get working on that. That will be due tomorrow when we are back. All right, have a great day.